She already knows she is interested. That part is settled, at least inside herself. What is not settled is whether he is what he appears to be, whether the quality she sensed in him, that gravity, that settledness, that quiet sense of a man who has found himself, is real and runs deep, or whether it is a surface impression that will dissolve the moment she presses on it. And so she does what intelligent women have always done when something important is at stake. She tests. Not cruelly, not manipulatively, but deliberately, and with a precision that most men never recognize until it is already over. The test does not announce itself. It does not arrive wearing the word test. It arrives wearing the clothes of ordinary conversation, of casual curiosity, of the kind of question you might ask anyone on an unremarkable afternoon. And that disguise is precisely the point. Because what she is measuring is not the content of your answer. She is measuring something far more revealing, something that the content of your answer cannot fake for very long. What most people don't realize is that when a woman tests a man, she is not looking for the right words. She is looking for the right presence behind the words. She is looking to see whether the man sitting in front of her responds from a place of genuine security or from a place of carefully managed performance. And the difference between those two things, though invisible on the surface, is felt immediately and unmistakably by a woman who is paying attention. Which she is. She always is. Stay with me here. To understand the two questions, you first have to understand what she is actually evaluating. Because the test is not really about age. It is not really about the gap between their years or about whether he can justify his interest in someone younger. The test is about one thing and one thing only. It is about whether he is, in the deepest sense of the word, solid. Whether there is a core to him that does not shift depending on the pressure being applied to it. Whether his identity is something he carries from the inside or something he borrows from external validation. This distinction matters enormously, and here is why. A younger woman who is drawn to an older man is drawn at some fundamental level to the promise of a particular kind of stability. Not financial stability, though that is often part of the picture. Emotional stability, psychological stability. The stability of a man who has been through enough to know who he is and who does not need the people around him to confirm it for him. She has seen what it looks like when that stability is genuine. She has also seen what it looks like when it is performed. And she has developed, through experience, a sensitivity to the difference that is difficult to deceive. There is something deeper happening here. The first question arrives in the conversation naturally, almost casually, and it sounds something like this. Do you ever feel like the age difference is a problem, or some close variation of it? Maybe she phrases it as, does it bother you what people think about us? Or, have your friends or family said anything about the difference in our ages? The specific phrasing shifts. The underlying question does not. And here is what most men do not understand about this moment. They hear it as a question about the relationship. They hear it as an invitation to address a potential concern, to be reassuring, to demonstrate that they have thought about the implications and arrived at a comfortable resolution. And so they answer it on that level. They explain why the age gap doesn't matter, or they acknowledge that some people might not understand, but that it doesn't affect how they feel. Or they become slightly defensive and explain that they are not interested in what other people think. All of these responses miss the point entirely. Think about it. The question is not really asking you to take a position on age gaps. The question is watching how you handle pressure. It is observing whether you become apologetic, whether you become defensive, whether you reach for external justification, or whether you simply remain yourself, unbothered, grounded, curious about why she is asking rather than anxious about what your answer might mean for the relationship. The man who passes this question is not the man who has the most articulate answer. The man who passes this question is the man who does not need to have an articulate answer, who can meet the question with a calm half smile and a genuine curiosity about what is behind it, who can say without any trace of defensiveness that he has thought about it and it has never presented itself to him as a problem, and then turn the question back toward her with genuine interest, asking what is prompting it, what she is feeling, what she needs to understand in this moment. That response demonstrates everything she is actually testing for. It demonstrates equanimity. It demonstrates that his sense of himself does not depend on her reassurance or on the approval of people outside the relationship. It demonstrates that he can receive a challenging question without being destabilized by it. And it demonstrates that his instinct, even when slightly pressured, is toward her, toward understanding her, rather than toward defending himself. We'll come back to why that last part is so important. But before we go there, we need to examine the second question, because the second question is even more revealing, and it is the one that most men are least prepared for. Now we move deeper. The second question takes longer to arrive. It does not appear in the first or second conversation. It waits. It waits until there has been enough warmth between them, enough real connection, enough shared territory that the asking of it feels possible. And then it comes, usually in a quieter moment, usually when the guard is slightly down and the conversation has drifted into more honest territory. It sounds something like this. What do you actually want? Not with me specifically, not at first, but generally, at this stage of your life. What does the life you want actually look like? This question is testing something different from the first one. The first question tested his security in the relationship. The second question tests his clarity about himself, his self-knowledge, his ability to look inward and give her an honest, specific, considered answer rather than a comfortable, rehearsed one. Because here is what she has learned from experience. Men who have not done real inner work will answer this question in one of two predictable ways. The first is vagueness. They will say they want to be happy, they want someone to share their life with, they want peace and connection. These answers are not wrong, but they are also not real. They are the answers of someone who has not actually sat with the question long enough to find a true response. And she will feel the vagueness immediately, like reaching for something solid and finding it slightly soft. The second predictable failure is the answer that is entirely oriented around her. He will tell her that what he wants is exactly what they are building, that she represents the life he has been looking for, that since meeting her, his vision of the future has become clear. This sounds romantic. It is also alarming, because a man who locates the meaning of his life in another person, who allows someone else to become the answer to the question of what he wants, is not a man who has found himself. He is a man who is still searching, and who has momentarily stopped his search by attaching it to her. And she knows in the part of herself that has been paying close attention that this is not security. This is transference. And it will become her problem. This is where things become interesting. The man who passes the second question is the man who can answer it specifically, honestly, and from a place that is clearly his own, not a place that requires her presence to exist. He knows what he is building. He knows what matters to him. He knows who he is when he is alone, what he values, what he is moving toward. And he can tell her these things not as a performance of self-sufficiency, but as a genuine sharing of an interior landscape that was already there before she arrived. That specificity, that pre-existing clarity about himself, is what communicates the thing she has been testing for all along. It tells her that choosing to be with him is a genuine choice, not a rescue operation. It tells her that the life he is offering her access to is a real life, with its own shape and direction and meaning, not a life that is waiting for her to fill it with purpose. It tells her that he is someone she could genuinely partner with, rather than someone she would inevitably end up carrying. What happens next, once she has seen real answers to both questions, is significant. She relaxes. Not in a dramatic way. In the quiet, deep way that a person relaxes when they have been holding tension they didn't fully know they were carrying. The testing stops, not because she has run out of questions, but because the core questions have been answered. She now has the information she needed, and what she does with that information is to begin gradually to allow herself to be more fully present in the relationship, to stop scanning for the hidden crack in the foundation and to simply inhabit the structure. Now we arrive at the deepest layer of this conversation, and this is the part that reframes everything. The two questions she asks are not really about him, not entirely. They are a mirror she is holding up to herself, because when she asks whether the age gap is a problem, she is also asking herself whether she is ready to be with someone who will be judged by people she cares about. And when she asks what he truly wants, She is also checking whether what he wants is something she can genuinely contribute to rather than something she would have to compete with or submit to. The tests are bilateral. She is evaluating him, but she is also using his responses to evaluate her own readiness, to confirm that her instinct toward him is grounded in something real rather than something she has constructed out of the flattery of his attention or the novelty of the dynamic between them. And this is the deeper truth that changes everything. The tests are not obstacles, they are invitations. Each question is an invitation to show her who you really are beneath the impression you have made. Each question is a door she is opening and waiting to see whether you will walk through it as yourself or as the version of yourself you think she wants to find on the other side. The man who walks through as himself, grounded, clear, unbothered, genuinely curious, passes every test she will ever give him. Not because he has said the right things, but because she has seen, through the particular pressure of those questions, that there is someone real inside him. Someone whose presence does not change shape depending on what is being asked of it. And so the question that opened this conversation, how do you pass her tests, was always the wrong question. You cannot pass a test you are trying to pass. The moment you are performing, she feels it. The right question is this: are you so thoroughly yourself, so genuinely settled in who you are and what you want, that no question, however pointed, however uncomfortable, has the power to move you off your own foundation? That is what she is looking for. Not perfection, not polish, not the right answer, just the real one. If this opens something for you, there is much more to explore. Stay close.